All right, everybody, we are back for UFC 319 live from the United Center in Chicago, Illinois, with a main event for the middleweight championship of the world. Some may say this is the fight of the year, the fight of the last 2 or 3 years, with a banger, with the middleweight champion, the reigning, defending, undefeated fighter, at least in the UFC, Dricus du Plessis, defending the middleweight crown against a true undefeated fighter in mixed martial arts, the smashing machine. No, not Mark Kerr, but Smish, Khamzat Bors Chimaev. And then in the co-main event of the evening, you have a phenomenal fight in the featherweight division between Lerone, the Miracle Murphy, another fighter who's undefeated in the UFC, taking on a UFC debutant, one of the most anticipated signings in the history of the UFC, in Aaron Pico, coming over from PFL, formerly from Bellator, making his UFC debut in the co-main event in the Windy City. So without any further ado, let's get this started and step into the ring. All right, guys, it's time. It's time for UFC 319. And before you guys ask if I'm going to be there, I'm not. I'm not going to be there. I'll be watching it on pay-per-view just like most of you. But, man, this is a phenomenal card. I'm pretty upset I'm not going to be there. I don't want to sit here and lie to you. But maybe if I can get cheap tickets the day of, but I doubt it. I'll just be watching at home just like all of you guys. But it's a phenomenal card. I mean, from top to bottom, there really isn't a single bad fight on here. Every fight has some sort of a name in it, besides the Ultimate Fighter finales, which we're not going to talk about because I didn't watch the show. I saw a couple fights. I know Roivert Echeverria was close to getting into the finale, and then he ended up losing. I think it was by TKO. But I didn't follow the season, so I'm not going to give you a breakdown on here because that would just be kind of a waste of time, right? Like, I don't really know these guys' fighting styles, and I figured we'll just spend time on the actual card. I'm not breaking down Deone Barbosa and Karine Silva on this podcast. I'll give you a quick synopsis. I think that the fight, for the most part, is pretty close. I just don't think Barbosa has much striking, aside from, like, big shots. Like, maybe she could land a spinning back fist. Maybe she lands, like, a wicked head kick and hurts Karine. I'm pretty sour on Karine after her last performance. I thought she could have won that fight, and she kind of just got dominated and kept at range for the majority of it. I think with Barbosa, it's an easier matchup because I feel like both of these girls are primary grapplers, and they're probably going to go to the ground, and it'll probably get stifled off for a certain amount of time. I like Deone Barbosa. I've picked her before in other fights. But with this fight, I just think Karine is much better on the feet. I feel like she'll be able to push harder over the 15 minutes than Barbosa, and that if she's better in the striking, it'll make the takedowns more telegraphed from Barbosa, which in turn could open up the submission offense of Karine Silva. So I'm actually going to take Karine to find a late submission here. I'll take her by late second round guillotine choke submission. I just think she's going to tire out Barbosa, kind of piece her up on the feet, maybe get hit with a couple shots, and then she's going to draw out a takedown attempt from Barbosa, grab her neck and submit her. So I'm going to take late second round guillotine choke submission for Karine Silva. And yeah, we'll move on to the fight that most people want us to talk about in the middleweight division between Nursultan Ruziboev taking on Brian the Butcher Battle. This is a phenomenal fight. Really, really solid fight here between two guys where a lot of people, I think, are going to just automatically pick Brian Battle because they see he's the favorite. He's fought the better competition, and he's looked pretty good, at least in welterweight. We don't really know too much about him at middleweight, considering the fact that this will be his first fight back up in the middleweight division. But I think he probably can hang in the middleweight division. I do think this is a tough fight for him, though, because Ruziboev has a lot of power, and yes, Battle has decent ability to defend strikes on the feet, but for the most part, I mean, the guy does get hit a lot, and that is not something you want against a guy who hits as hard as Nursultan Ruziboev. I mean, if you just look at the striking defense of Brian Battle, he's got a 44% striking defense, with a guy who's as explosive and hits as hard, especially with that straight right hand or that right uppercut, he might cold cock Bryan Battle and knock him out. It would not shock me one bit if they were just feeling each other out on the feet and then he feinted a strike. Battle tried to shoot and just got caught with an uppercut and knocked out. You know, we've seen Bryan Battle get rocked before. I mean, even Kevin Jusay had him on wobbly legs early in the fight, but he was able to come back and just use that forward pressure and straight punches mixed with the hooks on the end to kind of attack the high guard and just eventually wilt him. I think the later that this fight goes, it does go into the favor of Bryan Battle. I feel like the fighter who's going to be able to push a higher pace in the second and the third round is going to be the Butcher. I feel like he will have the better output. He will be on the front foot more, and he will have more output. It's just the fact of, can he survive early? I think the better wrestler here is Ruziboev. I think he probably gets some takedowns here against Battle, and the smart thing to do if you're Ruziboev is to get those takedowns. He's got a 66% takedown accuracy, but Battle's only got a 53% takedown defense. So he basically, for every 2 takedowns, he gets taken down almost at least once out of every 2. I don't love that because I think if Ruziboev is smart, maybe he'll land a couple big shots on the feet, but he might want to look to get a takedown and get on top. Now, later on in the fight, when he starts to get tired, I do think the wrestling is going to become less and less available unless he's able to just take down Battle early, beat him up with ground and pound, and attempt so many submissions that he kind of takes the wind out of Battle, who is coming back in a division that we haven't seen him compete in since The Ultimate Fighter. But in this fight, I do think it's close. I don't think this fight's going to go the distance, which I think some people might expect it to. But you can't really... Listen. If Ruziboev isn't finishing Dustin Stoltzfus, I don't think he's going to finish Battle. And I know that that's a knock on Stoltzfus, and, you know, you can come after me in the comments, but if you're not finishing a guy who gets hit, rocked, and wobbled in almost every single fight, but you're going up against Battle, I don't think you're finishing Bryan Battle. Yes, I think he's going to get hit. Yes, I think he's going to get rocked at a certain point. But I don't think he's going to get finished. And I think if he doesn't get finished and he's not being held down for the majority of the fight by the bigger guy in Ruziboev, then the guy who's going to be pushing forward, who's going to have more output, and who's going to have more pressure going forward in the second and the third round is Bryan Battle. So at the end of the day, I'm going to take the Butcher. I'm going to take Bryan Battle to win. I think it'll be a tough first 7 minutes. But when we start to get to minute 8, minute 9, you know, towards the end of the second round, I think the forward pressure and the boxing of Bryan Battle is going to start to wilt Nursultan Ruziboev. I think he's going to start to break him down. He's going to start to get in his face. He's going to start to make him shoot when he doesn't want to shoot. And I think that's going to open up the striking game of Battle. I think we get into round 3. I think Nursultan is tired. I think Battle is a little bit beat up, but he's able to push that higher pace in round 3 and get Nursultan on the back foot, who doesn't really have much in the third round. Like, yeah, we saw he had a little bit against Stoltzfus, but again, not being able to finish him after you hurt him as many times as he did, it doesn't really make sense to me. But, you know, you never know what guys are going through on the day of the fights. But I'm going to take Bryan Battle by a third-round TKO. I just think he's going to survive early. He probably gets hurt. I'll tell you right now, he probably gets rocked. He probably gets stumbled, but I think he survives. I think he gets taken down, but he'll get back up to the feet. And I do think that he will be the fighter who has the fresher and more readily available gas tank to get on that front foot and push back Nursultan, who, you know, from what we've seen, we can't make a ton of assumptions, but this guy doesn't like to be pressured and moving backwards, and that's going to tax his gas tank even more. I think Battle puts it on him, beats him up in the third round, and TKOs him. Give me Bryan the Butcher Battle, third-round TKO over Nursultan Ruziboev. All right, next fight up is in the lightweight division. You have a battle between Edson Jr. Barbosa taking on Drakkar Klose. I understand people on the side of Drakkar. They think he's going to push forward, get Barbosa on the back foot, you know, pressure him like he's had so many issues with before, and just kind of push him against the fence, take him down, and break him. I just don't think Drakkar has a good enough chin to be able to do that for 15 minutes, guys. I really don't. So I understand people on the side of Drakkar and the game plan, because we've seen Barbosa have issues with that before. But Drakkar Klose is at a point in his career where he kind of just gets his chin touched and he starts to be rocked. I mean, kind of like McGregor, a gust of wind, and he does the chicken dance. That's kind of what I see from Drakkar Klose. And I don't think you can avoid being cracked at least 1 or 2 good times from Barbosa in a 15-minute fight if you're close. Because when Klose closes the distance, when he tries to get close, he tends to be hit. And he just wings big punches and doesn't really move his head off the center line. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is similar to the Billy Quarantillo fight. I really wouldn't. I kind of see a lot of similarities here. And I think Billy Quarantillo is a much more effective pressure fighter than Drakkar Klose. If Billy Q wasn't able to fully pressure Barbosa, beat him up, and take him down, then I don't think Klose really has a shot. So at the end of the day, I think Barbosa is going to be much faster on the feet, much more explosive, and I think he's better defensively. Even though he doesn't have the best defense, I think he's better defensively than Drakkar Klose. And even if on the stats it's not so, I mean, let's look at the stats on the striking defense. It says it's 56% to 50% for striking defense. I wouldn't even go, I mean, I know that's what's on paper, but in the way the fight plays out, I think Klose gets hit way more than Barbosa. And even if Klose does hit Barbosa, like, people are going to be like, oh, he's got power, he's got power. He had power when he slammed KO'd, Joe Solecki, but that's a different kind of power than striking power. And I don't see Drakkar Klose having enough power to rock Edson Barbosa and get him to respect him in the striking. So I think at the end of the day, Drakkar is going to be looking to come forward, looking to get those takedowns, looking to pressure Barbosa against the fence. And maybe he does it for like the first 2.5, 3 minutes. But eventually he's going to walk forward, and I think he just gets hit with a big knee when he changes levels and gets knocked out. I think it's a big knee, or he gets hit with like a spinning wheel kick from Barbosa, even though we haven't seen him pull that out recently in his UFC career. I think he catches him with a huge strike, rocks him, and knocks him out. So I'm going to take Edson Jr. Barbosa. I'm going to take him by knockout in this fight. I think this is a good matchup for Barbosa to get another highlight reel. I'm going to say he lands a flying knee on Drakkar Klose and knocks him out cold in round 1. Give me Edson Jr. Barbosa to just be too fast and too clean for a fighter who's not that great defensively and who's going to have a really hard time implementing their game plan, I think, in Drakkar Klose. So Edson Barbosa, round 1, flying knee knockout over Drakkar Klose. All right, next fight up is in the lightweight division. You have a battle between Chase Hooper taking on Alexander Hernandez. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one. I think in the first round, Alexander Hernandez has a chance to knock out Chase Hooper. He's going to be better on the feet. He's going to have more power. He's going to be faster. He's going to be more explosive. And he has decent takedown defense. Like, Hernandez is not an easy guy to take down. But I just think at this point in his career, like, even the fights he's winning, that they're very close fights that he probably shouldn't be winning. The Kurt Holobaugh fight is a perfect example where he just didn't have the takedown defense or the fight IQ to get back up to his feet even when he got taken down. He basically played jiu-jitsu with a guy who needed to take him down to win for the most part. And I think that was more of a lack of fight IQ on Holobaugh's side than it is Hernandez looking very good. The last fight I remember him looking good in was the fight against Jim Miller, and that was a fight where I expected Jim Miller to win and probably knock him out. I think if this fight stays on the feet, he knocks Chase Hooper out, but I do think Hooper's striking has gotten better, but his main bread and butter is going to be those takedowns. It's going to be the top control. It's going to be tying up Alexander Hernandez, beating him up with ground and pound, and eventually submitting him. And just to be honest with you guys, that's what I expect to happen. So I'm not going to sit here and break this fight down for a long period of time because there's no reason to do that. I think Hernandez might rock him in round 1. If he doesn't win by round 1 KO, I don't think he's winning. And I think Chase Hooper is going to use that long frame, use that lanky frame, get in on Alexander Hernandez, take him down. I think he's going to beat him up with ground and pound, and I think in the second round, he's going to get on his back, choke him out, and get a rear naked choke submission. So I'm going to go with a round 2 rear naked choke submission for Chase Hooper. I think he's just going to be able to implement his game plan. But in round 1, like I said, if Hernandez sparks him in round 1, it would not surprise me. I think if you want to play Alexander Hernandez as an underdog, you really only play him by knockout because I think that's his only win condition. But I expect him to maybe land a good shot in the first round but not knock him out, and then eventually just get tied up, taken down, worn out, beat up with ground and pound, and eventually give up his neck and get subbed in round 2. So the pick is Chase the Dream Hooper to win by second round rear naked choke submission. Next fight up is in the women's strawweight division. You have a battle between Jessica Bate Estaca Andrade. I don't know if that's still her nickname, but it was before. Taking on Lupita Godinez. So this is an interesting one because I don't trust either of these girls, and I don't trust them from a betting perspective, and I don't trust them from a fight IQ perspective. This is pretty much the style of fight where Andrade is expected to lose, and she comes in and ends up winning most likely by knockout. You know, for the most part, these are the girls that she pieces up on the feet, lands big shots, rocks, hurts, and finishes. You know, Lupita Godinez looked good against Julia Polastri, and then in the second and third round, maybe mainly in the third round, Polastri was just on that front foot and boxing her face off, beating her up to the body, beating her up to the head, and it looked like she could have got a TKO, but it didn't happen. She was able to make it to the end and end up winning via decision. So in this one, I think that the grappling is heavily on the side of Lupita Godinez. We've seen her take girls down before. We've seen her submit girls before. But I also think she has terrible fight IQ and just makes some of the worst decisions inside of a fight. So she's a girl you really can't trust. Jessica Andrade is a veteran. She's beat some really tough girls. She knocked out Mackenzie Dern, who has looked pretty good in her career, you know, at least towards the tail end of recent performances that we've seen from her. But she's still, you know, not the best, but it was a good performance from Andrade. She gets taken down, beat up, and submitted in round one, and it looked like she didn't even try in that fight. And I expected Jasmine to win. You guys know how big of a fan I am of Jasudavicius, but she just didn't really want to be in there, and she didn't try. She got knocked out in round one by Yan Xiaonan, but Xiaonan's a really good striker, and she hits very hard. She got knocked out in round one by Zhang Wei Li, but again, that's Zhang Wei Li, not Lupita Godinez. I think this is a fight that Andrade can win. You know, if she keeps it on the feet, she's going to outstrike Lupita. But I think Lupi, even though I just said her fight IQ is not the greatest, I feel like she's going to have the right idea here, and I think she is going to look for those takedowns. And I think she will get takedowns. I think she'll soften her up with ground and pound. She'll attempt a couple submissions, but she won't get it in round one. I think we get to round two. She feints up top, gets another takedown, holds down Andrade, beats her up, and I think she just eventually locks in a rear naked choke, you know. So I'm going to take Lupita Godinez to win by second round rear naked choke submission. But I would not be surprised if Andrade just pieced her up, landed big shots on the feet, dropped her a bunch of times, and ended up getting a late KO, like second or third round. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think at the end of the day, Andrade just has a glaring hole in the grappling defense, and if you can't see that at this point, you probably shouldn't be fighting at the highest level. So I expect a grappling-heavy approach from Lupita Godinez. Land a few strikes on the feet at first to get her to commit. When she commits, change levels, take her down, beat her up, tire her out, allow her to give up her back in round two and get a submission. So I'm going to take Lupita Godinez to win via second round rear naked choke submission. I think she finds the back, finds the neck, and gets a sub. Lupita Godinez, second round rear naked choke. All right, the next fight up is in the middleweight division. You have a battle between Gerald GM3 Mearshart taking on Michał Oleksiejczuk, who I just found out has recently started training with the fighting nerds, with the likes of Gene Silva, Carlos Prates, Caio Borraio, etc., etc. Yeah, I think this is primarily striker versus grappler. I think if you watch MMA, if you have any sense of an idea of how this sport works, you know that that's what we're going to expect. GM3 is going to be looking to change levels, take down Oleksiejczuk, and submit him. He's been submitted 6 times out of his 9 losses. People are going to look at that and think, oh, GM3, easy pick. GM3 by sub, easy pick. I don't think it's going to be easy for GM3 to get him down, and I think if this fight stays on the feet for even 2 minutes, I think Oleksiejczuk is probably going to knock out GM3. Now, has he been durable in certain fights? Yes. Has he been rocked and hurt and beat up and come back in other fights? Yes, 100%. GM3 is the king of round 3 comebacks. We've seen it multiple times before. I just think at this point in both of their careers, I think Oleksiejczuk is going to know what to expect. He's going to expect the takedowns. He's not going to throw a lot of kicks, so it's going to make it harder for GM3 to get on the inside and get the takedowns. And I think he's going to box him up and box his face off. That's really what I think. I think he's going to, feint the jab, throw the straight left hand, throw the right hook, 1-2s down the middle, and I think he's going to hurt GM3 in the first round and just put him down and knock him out. Has he survived recently in recent fights, like to get to the end? Yes, but even in the fight against Brad Tavares, I mean, I'm shocked that Tavares didn't knock him out there. It was pretty much all one-way traffic from Brad Tavares just piecing him up, beating him up on the feet, and somehow it made it to the distance. But Tavares beat him up, and GM3, he got dropped by Reinier de Ridder, but I don't think that looks too bad at this point with de Ridder coming off that win over Robert Whittaker. But this guy's chin just isn't there, and I also think the grappling of Oleksiejczuk isn't there. So if GM3 is able to get on the inside and take him down, I think Oleksiejczuk probably gets submitted once he touches the mat. But I just think he's going to have good enough range management, good enough takedown defense, knowing what to expect, expecting the takedowns, but still staying defensively responsible. And I think he's going to drop him and knock him out. Kevin Holland got dropped by Oleksiejczuk before he got submitted in that armbar. He followed him to the ground. I don't think he'd make the same mistake at this point. And if you're dropping Kevin Holland, I really think you could probably drop GM3, even though MMA math doesn't work. But at the end of the day, I'm going to take the striker in a fight that's going to start out on the feet, and I think he's going to win by first-round knockout. So I'm going to take Michał Oleksiejczuk to win round 1 KO over Gerald Meerschaert. I just think he's going to touch his chin, and I don't think GM3 is going to be able to survive. He doesn't follow him to the ground. I really hope he doesn't, because that would be a terrible mistake. But I think he's going to drop him. GM3 will get back up. He'll drop him again and finish him off in round 1. Give me Michał Oleksiejczuk to land that left hand at will and finish GM3 in the opening frame of their bout at 319. Michał Oleksiejczuk round 1 knockout is the official pick. Up next, we have a battle in the lightweight division between Bobby King Green taking on Diego Ferreira. I see a lot of people thinking that this is a good fight for Bobby Green, and I think this is a more favorable matchup than some previous ones he's had in the UFC, but I think we've seen it at this point where Bobby Green's hands low, head movement, shoulder roll style, it doesn't work anymore. He's not fast enough. He's gotten older, and he's lost that speed. He's lost that fast twitch movement. His reaction time has slowed down. And in that type of fight against a fighter as dangerous as Ferreira, both on the feet and on the ground, I just think it's going to be a matter of time before either Ferreira clips him, drops him, and grabs his neck and submits him, or just flat out knocks him out. I think this primarily stays on the feet. I don't expect a lot of takedowns. I think it's going to be a striking matchup, and I think Bobby Green is going to look good in the first round. I think he's going to land some good jabs, land the 1-2, move around on the outside, shoulder roll, come back, right hand, left hook, jab, left hook, right hand, hands low, what's up, looking, leaning forward, popping a jab, and he's going to look good. We're going to get into round 2. We're going to think, man, Bobby Green is back. He looks great in this fight. And I think it's going to be similar to the Michael Johnson fight with Diego Ferreira, where he's going to be getting pieced up in round 1, and we're all going to be like, damn, Bobby King Green coming back, looking good, kind of looking like the Jim Miller fight, except not as much damage caused. And then I just think eventually, boom, a big right hand's going to land on Bobby Green's chin. Green's going to get rocked. He's going to get hit again, get dropped, and get TKO'd. I just think Bobby Green's chin is gone. It's dust. And would I be surprised if Ferreira knocked him out in round 1? No. Would I be surprised if Green knocked out Ferreira? Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a KO on Green's side. I think Green is going to be the one getting knocked out. I think if you think Green's going to win, he probably just outpoints him, beats him up, defends the takedowns, and wins, 29-28 on the scorecards. So if you're on the side of Bobby Green, I think you probably play Green by decision because he's going to play on the outside, use the jab, use the 1-2, land some good counters, but I don't think he has enough power or speed to knock out Ferreira. But with Green and how many times he's been getting KO'd and the fact he just got spinning wheel kicked in the first round and knocked out, I think if anything, his chin is downgraded more than his defense is readily available. And I just expect Ferreira to have a tough first round, be defending, coming back with some counters, but at the end of the day, Green's just outstriking him and he's too slick for him. And then I think he's going to make adjustments in between round 1 and round 2. I think Ferreira's going to come in, he's going to land some jabs, he's going to land some 1-2s, he's going to land that hook, and I think eventually he's going to land a big overhand or a big straight down the middle that drops Bobby Green, and he's going to finish him off by TKO. So give me Diego Ferreira to win. I'm going to take him round 2 KO over Bobby King Green. I just can't trust a guy who relies so heavily on speed, movement, and reaction time, but at this point, he's just gotten older, and his defense and his reaction time isn't there as much. So I'm going to take the fighter who, yes, has taken some damage, yes, has been finished before, but a fighter who I think at this point has more left in the tank as a mixed martial artist at the highest level, and that's going to be Diego Ferreira. So give me Diego Ferreira to win by second-round knockout against Bobby King Green. He's going to rely on the defense that isn't going to be there. Boom, get hit, get rocked, get hit again, get dropped and get TKO'd. Give me Diego Ferreira, round 2 knockout over Bobby King Green. All right, up next, we got a battle in the flyweight division. This is the opener of the main card between Tim Elliott taking on Kai Asakura. Yeah, this is a good fight, but I really think that this is the get-right spot for Kai Asakura against Tim Elliott. Elliott maybe could give Asakura some trouble with takedowns, with forward pressure, with that awkward style. Maybe he lands a big overhand right and knocks out Asakura. But I think if you go back and you watch the fight with Pantoja, yeah, he got submitted in the first round. He got hit with a big shot, got taken down against the fence. But he landed some, a flying knee that probably would take the head off of most people in the flyweight division. And I just think at this point, he's too fast for Tim Elliott. Like, don't get me wrong. If Elliott can drag this into the midpoint of the second round and beyond, then yeah, I think Elliott's probably landing some awkward strikes, probably getting Asakura tired. He's probably gotten a couple takedowns. And I think the path to victory for Tim Elliott is getting those takedowns, getting top control, beating him up, tiring him out, and submitting him. That's the game plan for Tim Elliott. But I just think Asakura is too fast and too crisp and too clean to lose to a guy like Tim Elliott, who has been finished multiple times, mainly by submission, but he can get rocked and he can get hurt and he can get put away, and I think Asakura knows that. I mean, he can land vicious knees to the head, flying knees, vicious step-in knees to the body, vicious body kicks, vicious low kicks, vicious 1-2s down the middle. I mean, this guy's going to have Elliott beat at every aspect of the game when it comes to the striking on the feet. And I know he got taken down by Pantoja. I think Elliott is an elite grappler, but at this point in his career, I think it's going to be hard for Elliott to get in, and he might just crash in and run into a big shot. Like, maybe he times the flying knee perfect, gets a takedown, and gets on top, and I think Elliott can have a lot of success on the ground. But I think Asakura is going to be good enough to get his feet on the hips, kick off, get up to a hip, work up on the fence, and circle off if he does get taken down. But I don't think he's going to. I think the UFC know what they're doing here. I think the UFC know that Asakura is a huge name in Japan. I mean, he's a huge name in Japan, and I think they're trying to get him a win. This is a get-right spot for Asakura after losing and getting submitted by the champion in Pantoja. I mean, how many times do they bring a guy over from another organization to fight the champion in their debut? I mean, the only other time I can think about it was when Joe Soto came over and to fill in for Renan Barão to take on TJ Dillashaw. That's really the only time I can think about a debut title shot. It doesn't happen very often, and I think the UFC had hopes that Asakura was going to be too fast and too powerful for Pantoja on the feet, but I think at this point we know that Pantoja is going to be very hard to beat for anybody in the division. And Tim Elliott is a veteran. He's got a lot of UFC experience, and the UFC experience, it does count for something. So you can't fully take that away and be like, oh, it doesn't matter, he's going to get killed. But I do think Asakura is going to knock out Tim Elliott, whether it's in the first round or the second round. So I'm going to say Asakura gets a round 2 knockout over Tim Elliott. I think he's going to land a big shot, whether it's a flying knee. He's going to be way too fast for Elliott on the feet. And Elliott doesn't really have a high guard either. He relies on that movement, that head movement, that footwork, that knockoff Dominic Cruz, that Temu version of Dominic Cruz. And I think that style is going to get him crushed here against a fighter who's way too fast and way too powerful. We haven't seen much of him in the UFC, but I think this guy has the goods and he has the skills to be very competitive, at least in the top of the flyweight division. So I'm going to say Asakura lands a big knee to the body on Tim Elliott in round 2, drops him, and finishes him off via TKO. And it could be in round 1. He's going to be too fast for him. I think he crushes him when he steps in to get a takedown, drops him, and finishes him off. Give me Kai Asakura to win via round 2 knockout, via knee to the body against Tim Elliott. All right, the next fight up is in the middleweight division between Jared, the Killer Gorilla Cannonier, and Michael Venom Page, or MVP. MVP made his debut in the middleweight division in the UFC and took out their cash cow, so to speak, in Shara Bullet Magomedov, winning by decision. Jared Cannonier is coming off, I believe, a loss to Caio Borralho, but he might be coming off that knockout win over Gregory Rodriguez. Let's see. Jared Cannonier. So he was coming off that knockout win 21 seconds into round 4 against Rodriguez. He got hurt so many times early in that fight, got dropped, got rocked, got put on the back foot, almost got finished, somehow survived. Rodriguez just gassed himself out after like a round and a half. And then Jared Cannonier came back and started piecing him up. Left hooks, right hands, 1-2s down the middle, uppercuts, hooks, body shots, and just finished him off in the beginning of round 4. It was basically done in round 3, but it is what it is. Looking at this fight stylistically, I think Cannonier has the power to hurt MVP. I think he has the grappling to use in this fight. The smart idea for Cannonier is to get close, wrestle, take down Michael Venom Page, and just rinse and repeat for 3 rounds. Get in, get the takedowns, take him down, land a little bit of ground and pound. Try to land ground and pound that can hurt him and, win on the scorecards. Or potentially get a knockout via ground and pound. Because like I said, I think Cannonier has a lot of power. He might be able to knock out MVP. Cannonier's a good striker. Don't get me wrong. He's got good straight punches, a really good uppercut, solid low kicks, a good 1-2. But at this point in his career, he gets hurt so much that I just think MVP is going to be too fast for him. Even moving up from 170 to 185, Cannonier being a former heavyweight, he does pack a lot of power. He has a lot more power than Shara, so it is a fight that I would say is much more dangerous than anything MVP's dealt with in the UFC. But I think that at this point, MVP is just too fast. I think he's going to be in that side stance. He's going to be popping the jab. He's going to be popping the 1-2. He's going to be moving laterally. He's going to be moving in and out. Cannonier's going to try to walk his way in and get him against the fence, and it's going to be harder for him to do than people are expecting. It's going to be hard for Cannonier to track him down in order to get those takedowns off, and I just think MVP is going to dance around and kind of just kickbox his face off. I think he's going to land the jab, land the 1-2. He's going to land some good kicks to the body. I think as Cannonier steps in, he's going to chop that lead leg, maybe with some side kicks. Jab, jab, 1-2, 1-2, move around. Cross right down the middle. Darting cross right down the middle. Circle off. 1, 1, 1-2. 2 down the middle. And I think he's just going to be on the outside picking apart Cannonier, playing a bull versus matador, and being a successful matador for the most part in this fight. And I know people are going to write me off here, but I would not be surprised with like a 2nd or 3rd round knockout from Michael Venom Page. I just think that he knows that Cannonier is a lot more powerful, but he's slower at this point in his career. And Cannonier has gotten hurt in like almost all of these fights. He got dropped horribly by Caio Borralho. He got dropped seriously disgusting by Gregory Rodriguez and came back. He got dropped by so many guys in these fights, and he finds a way to come back. Got TKO'd by Nasruddin Imavov. But Imavov, obviously, that was a bad stoppage, but he was going to get TKO'd at that point anyway, so I don't think that was a terrible stoppage by the referee. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. In this one, I think Cannonier has the grappling to use and be smart to take him down and rinse and repeat for 3 rounds, or maybe get a ground and pound TKO. But I think for the most part, it's going to be on the feet, and he's going to be striking with MVP. MVP is going to be on the outside, and he's just going to be too fast for Cannonier. I think he's going to use the jab, use the 1-2, use all the tools and weapons I explained already, and I think he's going to get a decision win here. Like I said, it would not shock me if he gets a late TKO because Cannonier just runs into a big shot. And like I said, his durability, I think at this point it is definitely questionable. But I think MVP just is too fast and too clean and outboxes him or outkickboxes him for 15 minutes. So give me Michael Venom Page to win. I'm going to go 29-28. No, we'll go 30-27. I'm going to go 30-27 unanimous decision for Michael Venom Page over Jared Cannonier. I just think he's going to be too fast and too much of a puzzle for Cannonier to solve at this point, who doesn't have a ton of volume when you really think about it in his approach. It's kind of just single shots or 2 shots, and he has to kind of walk you down. And walking down MVP is going to be a very difficult strategy and puzzle to solve. And I don't think it's going to be easy to take him down. So give me Michael Venom Page, 30-27, unanimous decision over Jared Cannonier. All right, up next we have a battle in the welterweight division, a banger of a fight. Somebody is going to sleep between Jeff Neal and Carlos Prates. Hands of Steel versus The Nightmare. Obviously, this is a rescheduling, I think, from UFC I want to say it was like 317, but I could be wrong. They're going back at it, and they're going back at it in Chicago. This is going to be an amazing fight. Two guys who throw down on the feet, two guys who have a solid kicking game and really solid hands, mainly relying on their hands, but I think Prates will mix it up a little bit more with knees and elbows and kicks to the head. Jeff Neal has a good left kick. He'll go cross kick, hook cross kick, feint, and then throw the head kick. But aside from head kicks, he doesn't really throw leg kicks or body kicks. He really just attacks up towards the head. And I think that for the most part, this fight is going to be close for the first round. I think in the first round, I'll even go out to say, like, it would not surprise me if Jeff Neal wins the first round. Not by a lot. I don't think he dominates, but he's so fast and explosive and has so much power. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins that first round by just landing that straight left hand, cutting angles, getting hit a couple of times, but avoiding the bigger shots of Prates. But maybe Prates starts to land towards the end of the round, but they give the first round to Neal. And then we get into round two. I think it's still going to be competitive. Both guys being a southpaw, it kind of eliminates the check hook game from both sides, and it mainly relies on straight shots, right? So jabs and straight left hands. And I would say that, like, in a fight that's going to be primarily boxing, in a fight against two southpaws, in a fight that you kind of lead with the jab and the cross, I'm going to favor the longer guy, right? Like, he's 6'1", a 78-inch reach. He uses that length and reach as well, and he's really good with the straight punches. And a lot of the times, the straight punches are what sits his opponents down. And I think Neal is great with his left hand as well. Very educated straight left hand, a good jab, a good 3-2. He gets on the inside. He's solid on the inside with uppercuts and coming around the side, cutting angles off to his lead or rear side, and solid footwork. And I think people might come into this fight and think that Jeff Neal has the better footwork of the two. I disagree. I think that the footwork is kind of even, but I would say with the length and reach and the way that Prates uses his reach, he's very good at quarter turning and pivoting. The way he pivots to the outside or catches the hand on the shoulder and pivots out. Again, that pivot game is a little bit different when you're fighting against a guy who is the similar stance. It's hard to find southpaw versus southpaw usually in MMA, and it makes it a little bit harder to adjust. But I think if anybody's going to be able to adjust, I know people might think Jeff Neal, and he's got much more UFC experience, and I do agree. But the damage that he's taken in his recent fights, not so much the RDA fight, but in the fight with like Shavkat and I'll say the Shavkat one primarily. I mean, he took a lot of damage in that fight. He landed his own shots too. Like, he landed a left hand, he landed a right hook, he rocked Shavkat at a certain point, but Shavkat was just eventually able to get on that pace and pressure and break him down the stretch. And that was a fight I picked Neal in. I'm a guy who picks Jeff Neal all the time. I can't tell you when I didn't pick Jeff Neal. I don't know if I ever have picked against Jeff Neal on this podcast, but I'm going to be doing it here. I'm taking Carlos Prates by knockout. I just think that he's going to be able to find his range quicker than Neal, and I think it'll take a round. Like, I would say, like I said, Neal probably wins the first round, but when we get into round two, I think the jab's going to start working better. The cross, I think he's going to start landing body shots. We know that Neal can be hurt to the body, and sometimes he can be overwhelmed and overpowered in the clinch. We saw a similar situation also in the Neal Magny fight, where he was kind of just stuck on the fence and stuck in the clinch. And another thing similar to that happened in the Ian Gary fight, except that fight was pretty close. It was just a weird fight overall. And I just think Prates is going to land that left hand. I think he's going to find the jab, find the range, and I think he's just going to start landing that left hand at will. And I think one of those left hands is going to rock Neal. He's going to follow him. He's going to pressure him. He's going to maybe throw a knee to the body. Neal's going to try to counter. He'll pull back, counter again with the left hand, and put Jeff Neal down. I think this will be the first time we see Neal like fully KO'd. And I don't want to say that because I love Neal. He's one of my favorite fighters, but I just think this is a bad matchup for him. So I'm taking Carlos Prates. Give me Carlos Prates, a round 2 knockout over Jeff Neal. He's going to hurt him with that straight left, probably lose the first round, start working the body with those knees, Neal's going to try to counter, pull back left hand, and puts him down. My pick is Carlos, the Nightmare Prates, round 2 knockout over Jeff Neal. All right, up next is a fight I am super excited to talk about. In the featherweight division, we have the long-awaited UFC debut of Aaron Pico taking on the undefeated, I wouldn't even say a prospect, but the undefeated contender in the featherweight division at this point, in Lerone the Miracle Murphy, who's coming off of a decision victory over Josh Emmett. Amazing fight, guys. Amazing fight. So, this fight is crazy to me. I'm surprised that it's a co-main event. I'm happy that it's the co-main event, but I'm surprised they're giving Pico that co-main event shout right out the gate. But I think the UFC knows that, like, this guy's still young. Yeah, he's got some losses, 4-1 in his last 5. Lerone undefeated, but this is going to be a banger. And honestly, I feel like Pico kind of has the advantages in every area aside from the kicking game. I think the calf kicks of Lerone could give Pico a lot of trouble, and it's mainly going to come down to a battle of range. Lerone is very good with his footwork. He moves good laterally, good in and out. But the one thing I don't like is that I've seen this guy get trapped up against the cage, right? Like, I've seen him move laterally, cut angles, and kind of glide around the outside of the cage, and then his opponents can just land big power shots and cut him off. And eventually he will get back to circling. Like, he knows how to get off the fence, cut that angle, and then keep going. But a lot of the times he's getting backed up to the cage. He's getting backed up. He's getting put on his back foot. And he's good off the back foot. But I don't know if he's going to be able to deal with a guy like Pico, who has solid boxing technique, extremely fast hands. Probably the fastest fighter that Lerone has ever fought is going to be Aaron Pico. And you're looking at a guy in Lerone who also, he's been hurt in a lot of fights. Like, he got dropped bad by Dan Ige. He almost got put down by Josh Emmett. And I don't think people understand like how close Emmett came to knocking him out. Now, I picked Lerone. I figured it was going to be a pretty easy fight for him as long as he avoided the power. But there were so many times where those big overhand rights and that big left hook missed by literally like the chin hair on a dwarf. Like, that's how little space there was. Like, by a dwarf's chin hair, that left hook or that right hand just missed him. And that also is a testament and a compliment towards Lerone because his defense is so good. He's very good against Josh Emmett, I guess I could use this example. He kind of sat back on his rear leg and closed off his stance and kind of shrunk down his frame and was like hiding behind that lead shoulder. He had like a low stance and he was hiding behind the lead shoulder. Just pretty much to avoid a big right overhand. And maybe he could come back with a right hand. Avoid the overhand, come back 6-3. Come back 2-3, 1-2. Like, he could mix it up so many different ways. But against Pico, you have a different animal where, yes, Emmett is a good wrestler. But he's not a wrestler at the level of Pico. And if he is, he's not going to use it like I feel like Pico will use it. And I hear a lot of people saying Pico likes to trade. Pico likes to stand and get in the pocket and let things go. And I agree. Like, I don't think he's going to be afraid to stand and trade with Lerone. I wouldn't be surprised if he knocked Lerone out in the first round. Like, that really wouldn't surprise me. But I think at the end of the day, Pico's going to use that wrestling, and he's going to walk forward. He's going to try to crowd Lerone. He's going to avoid the counters. He's going to cut him off. He's going to put him against the fence. And I think he's going to start to put that boxing on Lerone Murphy. Like, he's going to start to land jab, jab, cross, 1, 2, 3. 1-2 liver, cross liver, and I think the body shots are really what's going to take it out of Lerone. Like, so many people are worried about hitting this guy in the head, and obviously Pico's going to have to mind his P's and Q's because if he changes levels and drops low for a body shot and gets hit with a knee up the middle, Lerone has very good knees. I mean, just ask Makwan Amirkhani if he remembers what happened. So if he changes levels, he's going to have to worry about that knee coming up the middle. But, guys, I got to go Aaron Pico here. I'm surprised he's the favorite. I expected Lerone to be the favorite because of UFC-level competition, because he's so technical, because he's so defensively sound. And this is another guy Name another time on this podcast I picked against Lerone Murphy. I don't think I ever have. But I just think this is a bad matchup stylistically for Lerone Murphy. Pico hits very hard. He works the body very well. He's faster than Lerone Murphy. He has way better wrestling. If the striking isn't working, he can go to the wrestling. He can use the wrestling to set up the striking and vice versa. I just think this is a bad matchup. Now, don't get me wrong. If Lerone wins, I wouldn't be surprised because I know how good Lerone is. He's good with his jab, good with the calf kicks, good at the range management. He's got good elbows. I think if they get in close, they'll probably look to land elbows over the top and knees to the body. He can time a level change from Pico and land a knee. I mean, we've seen Pico get knocked out with a flying knee by Adam Boric, so I think maybe those knees up the middle are part of the game plan where he's going to draw him out, make him change levels, and throw a knee up the middle and knock Pico out. I think this fight ends by knockout. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I think either Lerone knocks Pico out late or Pico knocks Lerone out early, and I'm taking Aaron Pico by knockout. I think he's going to use that wrestling. He's going to start to crowd Lerone. He'll get hit with some shots, but he's going to cut him off against the fence, and I think he's going to rip that right hand and rip that left hook to the body, and that's going to force Lerone to kind of drop down from the pain, and I think Pico's going to unload, put him down, and finish him off. Give me Aaron Pico to win this fight by second round knockout. I got Pico, second round KO over Lerone Murphy. Cutting him off, using the threat of the wrestling along with executing the wrestling early and landing that vicious liver shot that forces Lerone to cover up and he unloads on him against the fence until he falls. Aaron Pico, round 2 KO over Lerone Murphy. All right, and now we're at the main event of the evening for the middleweight championship of the world. You have the champion in DDP, Dricus du Plessis, versus Khamzat Boars Chimaev. 23-2 for DDP, 14-0, undefeated for the Chechen Wolf in Khamzat Chimaev. Guys, you already know what we're expecting with this fight. DDP has to survive for 10 minutes. If he can survive the first 2 rounds, this fight gets very, very interesting. We know what to expect, right? Like, I think Khamzat maybe throws 1 or 2 strikes on the feet in the first round, and he's going to take him down. He's going to take him down. 100% chance that DDP gets taken down. But I think he survives. I think he survives. I think that he is going to be the biggest fighter that Khamzat has ever fought. I think Khamzat's very strong. I think Khamzat is stronger than DDP, but I think DDP is going to be stronger than Khamzat anticipates. And I expect a takedown early. I expect a takedown within the first 60 seconds, right? He's going to come out, touch gloves, feint, boom, change levels, takedown. I think he beats up DDP in the first round. I'm not going to lie to you. I think he gets on top. I think he beats him up. I think it's a clear round for Khamzat, 10-8, 10-9. I think in round 2, a little bit more of a feeling out process on the feet. I think DDP might land a couple shots. Khamzat might land a couple shots as well. Boom, takedown again. And he gets on top, but he doesn't control him for as long as the first round. Like, DDP has a little bit more left in the tank. DDP is able to kind of work back up a little bit, but then gets taken back down, work back up, taken back down. And we could see that Khamzat starts to slow down once we get to like the 8.5 minute mark, right? We open up round 3, and we're starting on the feet. They try to exchange, and I think DDP starts to land. He starts to land that 1-2. He starts to land that lead left kick to the head. I think that DDP is not going to attack the body with kicks. I think it's going to be head kicks from the lead leg to stop the right hand. Question mark kicks off the lead leg, just a lead leg roundhouse kick followed by a right hand. I expect him to use that lead leg to cut off the power side of Khamzat. Throw right hand, blitz him with the left. Right hand left over the top. I think Khamzat shoots another takedown. He gets it, but this time DDP uses the fence and gets back up. Circles back to the center. Jab. 1-2. Jab. Jab. Right, left to the body. Jab. Right, left to the body. Feint. Uppercut. Hook to the body. I think we're going to see DDP start to invest in the body shots towards the end of the second round and into the third round. And that's going to open up the head. Khamzat's going to shoot. They'll work early. If DDP survives early, he starts to take over in the championship rounds. And guys, like let me get this off my chest, right? Because I know there's going to be little Khamzat nut huggers in the comments section telling me, "Oh my God, you're just in love with DDP. You're just in love with DDP." Have I ever been wrong yet? Have I been wrong yet? No, I don't think so. So here's the deal. Khamzat's going to win the first 2 rounds. He might even get a 10-8, but DDP's going to survive. He's not getting finished. Is he getting taken down? Yes. Is he getting beaten up? Yeah. Is he going to survive? Yes. I think, like, if Khamzat takes him down and subs him in the first round, I can't sit here and say I'm surprised. Because we've seen him do it so many times. Now, doing it to a guy as big as DDP, it's a different story, so it would surprise me a little bit. But I wouldn't be like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Like, you know, okay, he's just that strong. He's that strong and he's that good. He takes him down, subs him in the first round. Wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it's going to happen. I think DDP's going to start stuffing the takedowns after he survives the first 2 rounds. He's going to start to open up the striking. And Khamzat's got good striking, okay? So don't sit here and act like I'm discounting Khamzat's striking. He's got a good 1-2. He's got a solid uppercut. He has decent kicks, but I think the main bread and butter with his striking is in the punches. The 1-2 down the middle, the uppercuts, I think they're nasty, right? Like, he could catch DDP on the feet. He could win this fight on the feet. You know, Khamzat can. But I just think DDP, he's got that thing where he just refuses to lose. And I think Khamzat has the same thing, and I think that's why this fight is so good. But I think the later rounds, we're going to get to round 3. Okay, we're going to get to the third round. And in that third round, that's where I think DDP starts to take over. The midpoint of the third round, that's where the momentum starts to shift. Okay, that's where the tide starts to turn. That's where those takedowns don't become as easy. That's where DDP actually starts to get up off his back. That's where he starts to use the cage to get up and circle off. Starts to land the jab. Starts to land the cross. Starts to land that lead kick to cut off the power side. Starts to land shots to the body. And I think he starts to drain the gas tank of a guy who's had so many health issues in his career. I think he's in amazing shape. But I don't think his body is built to go 5 rounds. I think DDP is built for 5 rounds. It doesn't look like it sometimes because he looks very sloppy and he looks very out of it. But I think this guy just pushes. When you think he's going to quit, that's when he ups that ante. When you think he's done, that's when he ups that gas tank. That's when he ups that output. That's when he ups that intensity. And that's what I think, guys. Like, I think DDP is going to drag Khamzat into deep water, survive the early storm, and TKO Khamzat Chimaev in the 4th round. My official pick is and still the UFC middleweight champion, Dricus du Plessis, via 4th round TKO over Khamzat Borz Chimaev. I think he's going to rip body shots. I think those are going to open up shots to the head. I think Khamzat doesn't have the best defense to the head. I think Khamzat gets sloppy when he gets tired. And I think DDP is sloppy, but the sloppiness works for him. And those body shots are going to start to suck the wind. Those left head kicks are going to start to drain that right hand, make him not throw it as much. And I think DDP is going to start to rip those body shots. He's going to force Khamzat to shell up. And I think he's going to put it on him against the cage. And I think he's going to fold Khamzat Chimaev, or the ref is going to jump in and stop the fight in the 4th round. DDP round 4 TKO is my official pick. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, smash the notification bell with your favorite elbow to kick combination. And I'm out. I'm your host, Double M. These have been your UFC 319 du Plessis versus Chimaev preview, predictions, and breakdown. And I'm out. Let's make some money this weekend.